Hey guys, Tarke here, and there's been some changes to the heist mechanic. I've written up a bunch of notes. Now, some of you may not have played with this new mechanic, so I'm going to run one heist to show you what heists look like now, and then I'm going to go through my points. I've included the good, the bad, things I'd like to see changed, because this new patch, for me at least, removes a lot of the fun from the mechanic, and I really hope this isn't the state that heist stays for the rest of the league. So, let's go in. So the main thing, and I purposely put my cam here so you can see the alert bar clearly, is with this change, the alert system is a bit of a joke. You can very easily loot everything, and there's like no risk of ever being screwed over by it. You can now safely kill enemies, and you can see it doesn't affect the alert bar at all.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Let's also just turn the sound down so you don't get distracted during my video. So with this change, you can now very easily just loot everything, no issues at all, and it's all about, in theory, managing your alert from all the chests you click. Now, obviously, these are all things that could very easily be tuned and could be tweaked up and down, but as is, you can see that there's no... the alert bar doesn't really like to move much. Now, I haven't got a fully leveled up cast. I am using cast because this is a lock-picking event, and cast does reduce the amount of alert that goes up from opening chests, but he's not fully leveled up, and he's not fully decked out in gear that reduces alert level. Now, before this change went live, it was actually possible, using the correct rogues once they're fully leveled up and wearing reduced alert level gear, to do what I'm doing right now, where you get every single chest, every single time, guaranteed, and never have any issues. However, with this change, you can see that it's now the case for anyone at any point. Now, I don't want to go too crazy into the talking about this, because I've written my thoughts down quite clearly in the Google Doc, and I don't want to paraphrase it. So we'll just quickly finish this up, get the loot, leave, and then go out. Now, one other thing I will talk about, if you're struggling in terms of lag or crashes, that really sucks, and hopefully those are things that are addressed shortly. I will not be talking about bugs or anything like that in this video. This video will be talking purely just about the actual mechanic, how the mechanic feels, and in terms of reward. Also, one just small PSA while we wait to finish this thing. If at any point you get something really valuable, like an Exalt or a 6-link or whatever, you can just go to the entrance, and as soon as you press the entrance, the stuff is no longer contraband in your inventory. You can then re-enter the heist, and you won't lose anything. So that's just a fun workaround. So I'll just quickly dash through. So one of the points I wanted to talk about in this video is the difficulty and the amount of monsters you have waiting for you. So you can see that we hung around by this door, and there's just like a small little group of white mobs. Commonly before, you would have multiple rares hanging out. Now the rares are starting to join the party. And you still can get an occasional challenge, especially if you spend a very long time waiting around, because the longer you spend, the more stuff will be there. But it's pretty safe to say that density has gone right down. And obviously, as I said that, cannot die aura has spawned in there. Great to see cannot die mobs are still hanging around in heist. That is something that should be removed. And random on death effects you can barely see. But let's just get out of here, and then I'll get into my main talking points. But I thought it'd be important to show off how heist functions now, since a lot of people won't have seen this. And we're out. Okay, talking points. So, the good. This change opens up a rogue composition. So if you didn't know, all the different rogues have different perks. And a big thing before was having the correct rogue composition in Grand Heists. And if at any point you want to see your perks, you can do so here. They have it all here. So because of this change, because of the alert system change, you are now less dependent on Cast, Nanette, and Talina, who all had reduced alert level. And if, for example, your favorite person was Huck, you could now use Huck all the time. So from a attachment point of view, this is a benefit. This makes more sense from a game feel point of view. Having the alarm go up from killing enemies doesn't feel great. It just feels wrong. And the kiting of mobs to avoid the alarm was a silly workaround. So, you also have an easier to predict alert level, meaning in theory a greater sense of alert management. Being able to kill all the monsters is also a soft fix to rogue AI, as it provides less opportunities for your rogue to get stuck attacking random mobs instead of following commands. This also makes the mechanic less punishing for certain builds, such as summoners, who couldn't control what their monsters would kill, and makes Heist a more approachable mechanic for newer players, allowing a powerful source of exciting and highly lucrative items to players who have a limited understanding of other game systems. The nerfed doors also make playing certain builds, like true namelock melee or just straight up bad builds, far less punishing. Though, as you can see, there is still sometimes some challenge, and having a good kit of movement skills is very helpful. And then obviously, dank loot's XD. Obviously, it's much easier to get all the loot, so you're going to get more loot, and people like having more loot. So let's get into the bad. With the current tuning, it is laughably easy to loot every single chest without filling up the bar. As you just saw there, we didn't even get close to halfway. In many cases, the alert bar may as well not even exist, as it can be impossible to even fill up before seeing the final artifact, as we just showed. This is without stacking reduced alert gear on rogues or stacking rogue perks in Grand Heist. And to show you the gear I have on my cast, we have some lockdown, which we don't need, that's useless now. We have a little bit of chance not generate on chest, but doesn't matter since we get so low now. Here we had a little bit of 4%, so we had 10% total, and that was it. So we had 10%, so none of this gear really impacted that. Now, if you correctly manage your rogue gear and parties for Grand Heist, then the alert bar is completely meaningless in Grand Heist. So you have it in normal Heist and Grand Heist, the alert bar doesn't matter. That obviously isn't good when you just bypass an entire system of, like, the core system of a league. This also makes rogue gear progression far less meaningful and actually robs the league of long-term progression goals and potential rogue theory crafting and min-max. Before this change, I was making notes, I was watching videos, I was planning out exactly how I was going to roll each of my characters. And if the alert bar thing was changed, well, you could have then done like lockdown builds, where you purposely stacked the lockdown timers and you tried to loot as much after the lockdown started. This is all dead because of this patch, which really sucks. The balance of current rogue gear and rogue perks are broken by this patch. There are now multiple dead mods that can still roll on rogue gear that lowers the alarm penalty on killing enemies. I don't know if I've got any examples to show you. Here you go, reduced alert level from killing guards. This is now a completely meaningless stat, and if you're trying to roll gear, you now have these dead stats eating up slots. So I would avoid rolling gear until we see maybe a rework of this mod system. So it completely ruins the rogue gear. Now let's also talk about the rogue perks. So the rogue perks are broken by this. Both Tully and Nanette, you can see, have reduced raising of alert level. Their alert level reductions goes up as you level them, and was balanced because it used to be global compared to Cast, which was just with chests. However, now, since alert only goes up from chests, Cast is completely imbalanced. This is by far the best rogue. This goes further than just these ones, though. It also makes both Niles and Tibbs perks completely meaningless, which both have unlock a chest after lockdown, because you no longer care about that because you can get everything beforehand. Huck is the same, since he was just an aura buff. Isla's perk is made meaningless because it gives increased lockdown time, but you get everything before the lockdown. The only rogue that benefits is Vendiri, who is an interesting rogue because he gives you a chance to duplicate their contents, but had the risk of raising alert level. Before, he was a true high risk, high reward rogue, where if you geared him correctly and you built the rest of your party correctly, you could risk bringing him along. Whereas now you can just bring him along all the time, and it's very little of an issue very early on. So yeah, it's now all the rogue gear and rogue perks need to either be rebalanced or they'll be unbalanced for the entirety of Heist. So that also doesn't mention Nanette's perk, which can scout nearby any patrols. This is also meaningless because you no longer get punished for encountering patrols because it doesn't affect your alert bar. Trivializing the alert mechanic makes Heist far less engaging and will make the mechanic boring for players much sooner. Heist before this was my favorite league start to date. Yes, maybe I would have gotten bored of it eventually, but I was having a lot of fun, and if you look at my Atlas progression, you can see I've done barely any Atlas because I was just too busy spamming low-level heists. I was having so much fun with low-level heists. I'm now finding low-level heists incredibly boring. Perhaps maybe when I fully flesh out my Atlas and I start running like level 83 heists, maybe then they'll become exciting again. But heist went from being my favorite thing to do to now just free loot and way less exciting. I'm still doing them because they're very lucrative, but they feel nowhere near as fun as they were before. Deciding which chests to skip and which to go for was a core part of the heist gameplay loop. There is no choosing your loot when you just get everything. The only place this choice still matters is in the final realm of grand heists. By removing the penalty of killing guards, GGG has removed a point of failure from the mechanic, which also means the player is no longer rewarded for making clever decisions and managing their alert carefully. So they've removed a point of failure, but they've also removed reward, because the reward is guaranteed. As the full loot of a heist is now practically guaranteed, the reward balancing is also broken by this change. It made sense for heist chests to be overly rewarding when you couldn't safely get every one. Now GGG will either have to nerf the loot from chests, accept the reward structure is balked to the league, or rebalance alert gain from chests, which causes a whole bunch more work for them. Ultimately, the first half of heist now feels far more boring than before, and it's just a case of killing some mobs and clicking on all the chests. Difficulty. With this latest patch, we also saw significant changes to the actual difficulty of fights in Heist. The actual density of Heist themselves feels much lower. This is then compounded by the fact we're no longer ignoring or trying to actively avoid monsters in the stealing phase of the Heist. This acts as double nerf to monster density. A big complaint before this change was the amount of rare aura stacking that was happening behind doors. You saw there was still some of it happening, especially when the cannot die stuff happened. It became quite scary. But generally, the doors are way less scary, and there's just way less engagement happening behind each door. And this is previously one of the highlights of the League, of the oh my god moment. There's all this stuff waiting to kill me. How am I going to manage this? Now it just feels like there's much less spawning. The rares could have been replaced with more uniques, blue mobs, or just less dangerous auras, etc. A cool workaround could have been having actual set formations that spawn, especially when you see the Templar guys who kind of like hold the line. It could have been fun to have set rares there. What I mean by set rare formations is, say, having 2 random damage rare auras and 2 random defensive rare auras, not allies cannot die. This would give you a fun mix of gameplay, which would be varied and different every pack, and it couldn't ever get too broken because you'd never suddenly have loads of extra LE, faster attacks, sub-fizz all stacked in one tiny place. I've run multiple heists where there are now just 2 lone white mobs waiting for me on the other side of the locked door. Another issue we had previously was a wall of monsters arming their attacks at the exact same time globaling players. You can find many clips of this on Reddit. Enemies now have staggered attacks, which is a huge improvement, but with the above change means the difficulty of heist has again been double nerfed. Having staggered attacks and more staggered waves of enemy spawning probably would have been enough to change the problem without having to go heavy-handed with the density nerfs. Reducing the density and difficulty of fights also mean we now finish heists much quicker than before. This may not seem like an issue, but the longer you spend in the escape phase, the harder the escape becomes. More and more enemies spawn in. Since we now spend less time in this phase, density is effectively nerfed again here a 3rd time. It also feels, this might just be anecdotal, but it also feels like there's less locked doors blocking your entry. You can see on the one that I did, I now kind of just like run through, not killing anything, getting all the chests, and I mostly just run out without killing anything. So now I'm just playing avoid all the mobs league rather than killing monsters to get fun loot league. Things I would like to see changed now that we've established the issues I have with this patch. I'd like to see the stealing phase of the heist return to a mini game of making choices and being rewarded for correctly managing my alert bar. There's currently none of that happening. I want to see some return in difficulty, the escape of heists. It is still possible to die. It's very possible to still die. However, it mostly feels like you're dying to overpowered monster design and not because of the actual heist and the guards coming to stop a criminal. Having crazy one-shot abilities and on-death effects you can barely see isn't good design. It's just... Bearers is a fun mechanic. Volatiles are a fun mechanic. Having mechanics where maybe the robots, you kill them and then they like form up into a giant ticking bomb and there's a massive loud audio cue, that would be really fun. We've seen this with Delirium before. Audio cues are key to having good on-death effects. Currently, there's just not enough cues for those to feel fun and engaging. Stop contraband cheesing, and this is just one thing. I didn't show this, so I'll just quickly do it, but I did talk about it. You can very easily just go into any heist, open chests, and then instantly leave. It's very boring, it's very tedious, but this is one thing you can do which removes absolutely all penalty from the mechanic. I feel like what should happen is if I decide to be safe and I take an early chest, let's say I wanted to desperately save those chromatic orbs, and these heavy belts, pretend that one of these was like a mirror, I should be choosing, okay, I'm going to be safe, I'm going to leave, these are no longer contraband, and then the heist ends. This system promotes just... It can promote very boring playstyles of just going in, get the chest, leave, going in, get the chest, leave, going in, get the chest, leave. It's not great. The advantage of this is it does prevent crashes from becoming a huge issue, because if you crash in a heist before the final thing happens, you don't lose the heist, but it does open up abuse cases, so maybe that won't change, but I just thought I'd mention it. So, yes. Those are my thoughts on the heist patch. I still really like a lot about this league, but it does feel much less fun to me. Let me know how you feel about it. Is this much better? Is this much worse? Has some things gotten better? Has everything gotten better? Is this perfect? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.